Sat down together.
Yes, and I so appreciate your coming to my class, or actually, we're in the same space, but taking the time to really pay attention to what I'm up to and how I'm managing my challenges. And I also appreciated your notes.
Oh, good. You found those helpful?
Yes, I wanted to see, did I go through what I said I was going to go through?
Mm-hmm.
And so reading that was very, very helpful. Did you find it your part of the responsibility? Did you feel that it worked? I mean, I noticed you recorded well, but how did everything go?
I felt like that list of observable behaviors that as your mentor, I listened to you and kind of laid out, and that you agreed to. I felt like those really gave me a really clear focus for observing you.
Oh, good.
And, observing you, and you saw my notes, of course.
Yes, I did.
All those things that you had said you wanted to do, I saw you doing.
Good.
Which was really exciting. And it seemed like there were a couple moments when this particular child might have gotten offhand, and the one time you even looked at them and even started to put your finger, and he immediately pulled himself in.
That's great.
Yeah. And your voice was so neutral, and I
good.
really appreciate that. It wasn't you never raised your voice, but it was really appropriate.
I wonder if the children knew they were being videoed. And they knew that you were, because we're in the same classroom.
Right.
Which is really great.
Mm-hmm.
But you're being very attentive to what I was doing, and with the video camera, I bet that helps some
Right.
too.
Yeah, and even, had I had a video camera or not, certainly being watched, I think, does change children's behavior. So I know that the next time you go to do this, you may follow all these things on the checklist again, and this little guy may not be able to comply so well.
Yeah.
So what might be a solution for that when not being watched carefully or videotaped? That if the child misbehaves or doesn't follow through with lesson rules, what might you do, or what ideas?
Well, I've been thinking about that, and of course, he or she, happens to be he, already knows that they get 2 chances, and that's what you were referring to a while ago. If he acts out or causes a disruption, he gets 1 chance, and then if necessary, he might get a second finger up, which means he gets invited to come later to the same lesson, but with a different group of children. Now, one of the things that I really like for the children to realize that we all have our good days and bad days. We all have days that are not as easy for any of us. So I like to stay as positive as I can with the children. And so one of the things with this particular student that I would like to add to our daily routine in order to support him, I have found that, and again, this is just something that I've been reflecting on. I've never tried it before, but I would like to try it. At the end of a work cycle, and we have, of course, we don't have a group time in the morning. We come in and get busy with our lessons. Then at noon, we would say that's a transition time, and we're going to have a group time just before lunch is what we do.
Sure.
And what I would like to try, because I've heard this from, I can't remember if I read it somewhere or heard it in that AMS conference, but they said children need to know that if they're busy with their work, that they should have the privilege of completing the work, if at all possible, before they are encouraged to leave that work. Now, we all know that if you have to leave work, you can put your name on it, and then everybody will not disrupt that work. But I like this idea of, what if I invite all the children to come to our dismissal circle for lunch, and yet if there's, say, a group of children, or even this individual child who's, like I've told you, is very anxious and has a lot of energy, what if I let him, if he's working quietly and taking care of his workspace and not being intrusive, what if I could just let him stay there and continue to work? And maybe there's a group of 2 children over here that are working on a map, they're almost finished, and it's like, oh, we just have one more thing to label, you know, what if I could just let them continue? So that would be something else I would like to try,
Okay.
and just see how that works.
To see how it works to allow children to see their work to completion when possible.
Yes, when possible.
Good.
And also, sitting still is so hard, and when you're dismissing for lunch, it's no matter how hard you try to make that fun, like having games played, guessing games, read a story, whatever you do, it just seems like that's a pretty long time for everybody because they individually get invited when it's time to go out to the lunchroom, so.
Well, what it reminds me of is I was reading about Vygotsky, and he had something called, I think you've heard of it, the zone of proximal development, which is where kind of the child can stretch. And so if that little guy, if he needs to, if he's not ready for a very long sitting period, then maybe you shorten that and gradually stretch it over time in that zone of proximal development until he gets to the next phase.
It's a perfect example, yes.
So, very good. Well, wonderful. Well, I am looking forward to our future work when you get to be my mentor and I'm the mentee, because I've got some challenges.
Do you? And I'm anxious to be able to do that.
Great. Thank you, Ginger.
Thank you, Laura.